Now I will show you how you can build a governed data product within 10 minutes, supported by our new AI functionalities in version 12. So over the years, working on many data projects, we've seen the same challenges again and again. First, there is no trust in data. Numbers don't match across reports, and people start questioning the data instead of using it. Second, even when the data is technically correct, there is no shared understanding. Business and data teams interpret things differently, which leads to wrong decisions and costly alignment efforts. And third, there is simply too much manual work. Data has to be prepared, validated, and aligned again and again. To solve these challenges with our new software, we focus on 3 key pillars. The first one is trust, the second one, alignment, the third one, the AI-driven automation. And in the next minutes, I will show you how each of these pillars come to life in One Data and how it makes the lives of both business users and data engineers easier. Let's take a simple example. Imagine we are a company that produces baked goods and sells them to franchise partners who then sell them in their own stores. Our data is stored in Databricks and other source systems. And we do have data engineers, of course, but as always, they are limited in capacity. So the goal is clear. We need to bring the business closer to the data without losing control on governance. Therefore, let's start with the first pillar, the trust. With the data map, I get an instant and transparent overview of my entire data landscape across all connected systems. After connecting to my data sources and ingesting the metadata from all of my source systems and databases, I can explore everything in one central place. For example, I can switch between different perspectives. For example, a technical view, which allows digging into different origin and schemas of my different systems. In our case, we can see Databricks, MySQL, etc. Or a business view, which shows me business units like production, data and analytics, finance administration, and the corresponding subdivisions, depending on who is working with the data. I can also filter and enrich my view with additional layers. For example, number of rows, GDPR relevance, or in connection with the quality, the most important part from our perspective, the lineage. So if I see a data product with questionable quality, I can trace it back step by step to its original source. So instead of guessing where data comes from, I have the full transparency here. One Data also comes with a marketplace, which is a selected subset consisting of quality-assured data products, which can be reused across the company. In our bakery case, for example, we can find transaction information, franchise master data, and the weather forecast for our bakery locations in Passau and Munich. Let's click on the first one, the sales transactions. As a user, I'm able to download the data without even opening Databricks as Excel. I can check the descriptions, purpose and limitations, and if the schema and freshness of my data meet the aligned expectations, such that my reports and other consumers always get provided with the correct data. And from our perspective, this is exactly what creates trust. We know what data we have, where it comes from, and how it is used. So now let's move to our second pillar, the alignment. Our use case builder, which is an intelligent whiteboard on our ingested metadata we've already seen in the map, is where business and data teams finally start working together effectively. In our case, management wants to understand the performance of our franchise partners in its management reporting. So we need to create a new data product. Instead of long back and forth discussions, we can now collaboratively design the data product and the data flows in a shared workspace. Let's start with a simple idea. We want to analyze the franchise revenues. So the first thing we do is we add a placeholder for the report and call it, in our case, management reporting, as this will be the final target. In the next step, I add a placeholder for our data product we want to create within the next minutes. And let me call it franchise revenues. So the goal is clear. We want to aggregate the total revenues by franchise ID and franchise name. And I add those information as columns here. Let's the type being string in the beginning. That's okay for this demo case. So in our case, we quickly identify that we can reuse sales transactions and franchise master data, as we've seen some minutes ago, as our inputs. But instead of searching manually through the systems, One Data provides all the extended functionalities. So based on the metadata, the platform suggests relevant existing assets itself via the AI asset recommendation, or our AI assistant here in the upper right corner I can interact with. So to sum it up, instead of building something completely new, we reuse what already exists and only need to perform minor transformations. This not only speeds things up, it also ensures consistency across all of our use cases. So everything happens in a shared visual workspace, which means that business and data teams finally speak the same language in this case. So now let's have a look at the third pillar, the AI-driven automation. So at this point, we've already reduced a lot of manual effort. But now, from my perspective, we're coming to the point which brings the most fun. So we build the actual data product. In this case, let's replace our placeholder with a real data product draft to jump into the specification. So let's scroll down. Perfect. As you can see, a lot of work is already done for us. So we have some pre-filled information. We can see that we are in the development version 0.1. The name is taken over. We see the column specifications in the bottom. And in the development tab, we can see that our sales franchises and transactions are taken over from the use case builder. Now we can use AI to refine the business descriptions, but also for the other fields like purpose, limitation, schema, like columns, column descriptions, and also the data quality aspects. In this case, I'm totally happy with the proposal and accept the AI suggestion here. All right, let's pre-fill the last information. So One Data Sales is responsible for the development. I am the producer and the owner of this data product. And once I'm happy here, I jump into the development tab where I can add some development specification. In this case, it's absolutely clear. So I just ask our agents to aggregate the revenues by the franchise ID and the franchise name. And from this moment, intelligent agents take over. So we can trigger the development with Databricks here, but we also, of course, support other platforms like Snowflake, dbt, Dremio, and so on. And once I click on this button, perfect, yeah, now I can monitor everything in the log, what's happened in the background. Perfect. So after a few minutes, when I just fast forward those information, we can see that the data product was refreshed right now. Here we can see the artifacts or the resources which were created by One Data. We can see that we have the data table in the very first step. So if I click here, we jump into Databricks and can see the schema with franchise ID, franchise name, and total revenues. In the sample data, we can see the actual data product, which really worked with the joining and aggregation in the background, which is really great. If I go back to One Data and open the second resource, I can try or I can review the transformation code written in PySpark. And last but not least, if I go back to One Data once more and open the third notebook, we can see the data quality checks which were proposed by the agents in the background, corresponding or depending on the description I provided and the data which was provided to these agents. At the same time, all results are synced back into One Data and become visible in this quality tab again. So here we can see 6 quality checks were created in Databricks and were executed. All of them are successful. So everything stays fully transparent and governed starting from the first minute. In this case, everything looks good, and from my perspective, there is no iteration needed. So let's go back to the contract and let's configure the last details. For example, we want to have a weekly update, so such that it is valid. In this case, we can download the data contract in the Open Data Contract standard as YAML. And now from my perspective, we can move this data product into the published state. So we review in the first step. Once the review from my perspective is done, I click once more and I can publish it here. So what does this mean in practice? So simple transformations can be fully automated by business users end-to-end without writing a single line of code. And even for more complex pipelines, data engineers can focus on the parts that really matter. So instead of spending time on repetitive tasks. And this means less manual work, faster results, and higher quality outcomes. So in the last minute, let me summarize what we've seen in the past minutes and potentially what sometimes or something we've maybe also not seen in the past minutes. So we create trust by making data fully transparent and traceable in the data map and the marketplace. This is where the journey started a few minutes ago. Second, we ensure alignment by bringing business and data teams together in one shared workflow, the One Data use case builder, where we added all of the sources, specified the columns. What we didn't see before, we also offer a prioritization matrix to support the portfolio management. In this case, we can see the business value of the use cases and the completeness score. And if we hover over the points, we can see that this is the use case we just created. The fourth point is we enable AI-driven automation to significantly reduce manual effort without losing control or governance. Also with the download of the data contract. So, and the fifth point, we offer a data health dashboard with a great overview over all data quality aspects, both on the contract status with the data freshness and the schema requirements and the quality checks we already and also pushed to One Data from Databricks. So what's also new in version 12, our migration assistant supports seamless business logic migration, for example, in SAP BW migration projects. So we extract transformation code, translate it, and support with up-to-date and reusable data contract creation different target systems like Databricks. So check out our website. We also have an interactive business product tour here, which you can try out. And if you have further questions, feel always free to reach out to us.